Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers and hope you're having a nice weekend. Later, cutting trees in Lexington gets highly controversial and ends up at City Hall. We'll hear from a representative from Kentucky Utilities about that shortly and what you might expect in the winter ahead. But first, you can feel the holidays approaching. Many are already starting their shopping. This year, things are different and more patience may be required. Supply chains are disrupted around the world. Shipping, including by mail, may be slower, and retailers are having a tough time finding enough workers to help customers in stores. Even those shopping online are being told to expect the unexpected and to start things early. Steve McClain heads up communications and public affairs for the Kentucky Retail Federation. He's joining us today on Kentucky Newsmakers. Give us some perspective on what's going on. Welcome.
Yeah,
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, we're probably weeks away from the real hustle and bustle of the holiday shopping season, and people trying to be sure that they can get those gifts under the tree, but everybody knows things are going to be more challenging this year. What concerns are you hearing from your members out there?
Supply chain is what we've been hearing for the last few months. So retailers have started couple months ago started working on getting orders in and planning for the holiday season, and that's kind of where the message that they started putting out was go ahead and start shopping early on looking for those items, and if you see them on the store, go ahead and probably go ahead and get it, because there's not a guarantee that it's going to be there. If you're a procrastinating shopper on Christmas Eve, it may be a little dicey finding certain things.
This won't be the year for those folks, right?
Probably not.
We hear this term, supply chain, and we see the results are some empty shelves, or at least some poorly stocked situations. So this really is a global situation that is impacting us locally in Kentucky.
Yes, it is. And this is something that we saw even when the pandemic started. If you remember back, there was a run on paper products. We saw video of people walking out with 6 packages of toilet paper and all that. And it's not that there's a shortage of materials there. They just may be stuck in a storage container in a port in Los Angeles or Long Beach or New Orleans, and trying to get from point A to point B to point C. So that's kind of where it has been, and it's really gotten tough in the last few months to get products in, and that's kind of where we're at now.
Do you think retailers are looking at this as a short-term thing, or something that may go on for months or years to come?
We were hoping it would be a short-term thing, but now we're hearing from the national folks that study this and watch it. It could be up into 2022 before things kind of straighten out. It's things from everything. There's a shortage of truck drivers that came out through the pandemic. There was already a shortage before it started, and we saw truck drivers that left the workforce. And the process of getting new truck drivers hired and trained is kind of a long process, and there just hasn't been enough truck drivers to get in to replace that. There's issues that we've seen out in the ports with the infrastructure, where the roads are crumbling, where the trucks are going in to pick up containers to deliver to the distribution warehouses, and the trucks are breaking down, and there's not enough parts to repair the trucks. So this is something that we've seen. It's just really gotten really tight in the last few months that we've really seen it get worse.
Do you think, long term, that retailers will look at maybe trying to find their supplies closer to their locations?
We're seeing some retailers, we've seen some national retailers that have decided to try to hire their own ships to get goods. We're curious to see how that will work there. But yes, we think that we'll see retailers looking at local products, possibly. This is an opportunity for some certain local retailers maybe to help fill a gap in there as well, although we're hearing that they're having trouble getting the right supplies and goods in. So yeah, I think everybody's kind of taken this opportunity to look at how the supply chain has been, and naturally when you see something like this, okay, how do we learn from this and maybe make things happen so that we don't go through this again.
Obviously, with the holidays approaching, there are those concerns about, will the toys be available? Will the gift items be available? But you also represent grocers. Will grandmas out there be able to get the ingredients they need for their special holiday recipes?
Yeah, well, grocery has had their own issues. Part of this is there's a shortage of glass jars, aluminum, plastic packaging, things that, people use to package these products. There's a shortage of that. So kind of what we've started telling, if there's that one certain recipe that grandma makes that you expect on the Thanksgiving or holiday table, you might want to go ahead and start gathering up those items that you need to make it, just to make sure. What we're hearing from, have seen is that manufacturers have kind of suggested maybe not running quite as many specials on items, just to kind of ensure that the supply that's on the shelves can last through the holiday season. No retailer wants to have empty shelves, so they're looking at ways. Yes, we may have plenty of it now, but they're trying to think, will I have enough of it the 1st of December to make those goods?
We know there's been a tough shortage of available workforce out there, and fierce competition for workers who are available. What does that look like as we approach the holidays, and so many stores in particular have done seasonal hires over the years?
Yeah, we're they're trying to continue to do their seasonal hiring, and several companies in the last few weeks have been doing their hiring blitzes to try to get enough workers there. We've seen some retailers that have said, okay, we know that we've been struggling to find new workers, so they're looking at their current workers and saying, do you want some extra hours during the holiday season? And maybe taking care of those employees first to try to help, fill that. We will be doing a survey of our own membership here in the next week or so to kind of get a gauge on what they're seeing, as far as supply issues and workforce. When we did this during the summer, one of the things we asked was, what are you offering? And typically, many of them were offering upwards to $15 or more an hour to try to entice people, get people to on the floor to work.
I know you represent both national retailers and local businesses, and do they face different challenges in some cases, right? I mean, it's the same issue, but maybe in some cases one's in a better position to take advantage of the situation than the other.
There's opportunity. This is an opportunity, and this is kind of what we're recommending for shoppers. Be flexible as you're looking to shop for items for the holidays. I'm saying when you're making your list, have option 1, 2, and 3 that you may want to get someone. But there's retailers out there. You may find something at one store that you haven't been to before. So you may want to take that opportunity to check out some local businesses as well as national and see what's there.
The drugstore may have a load of something you didn't expect,
right? Exactly.
You're in there. Steve, retailers have had to really bear the brunt of what's happened the last year and a half or so, certainly with the masks and social distancing. The government at one time was saying who could operate and who couldn't, the essential businesses and all of that. They've had to deal with the guidance that's come along in terms of the rules. It has been challenging, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been, this has been, for, longtime retailers have said this has been some of the most interesting and challenging 18 plus months that they've ever seen. Just because everything was changing and you didn't know what was coming, from one day to the next. You weren't sure exactly what guidelines you were going to be operating under. But one thing about retailers, they adapt to the circumstances that they find themselves in, and we saw that for the last 18 months. Retailers that hadn't dabbled in social media much suddenly said, okay, if we're going to survive, we're going to have to start doing Instagram videos. We're going to have to start doing Facebook Live videos. So they started doing things like that. And some of what we saw come out of the pandemic is probably here to stay. Your curbside pickup, your online shopping has been ticking upwards every year, and that really ramped up over the last 18 months, and that'll be there.
Can the case be made that nobody has seen a time like this, and some of the older storekeepers may see, well, we really need these young folks who understand the social media landscape and so on.
And we've been out visiting with some especially your local retailers, right, that are independents that have had a store for several years. They're like, they've said, yeah, we've hired some and talked to some high school kids or some folks we know from college that have come in and helped us do these Instagram videos and helped us post things. And some of them have learned how to do it and have gotten really good at it. So
you've told us you go out and do something, Shop Our Town, and so you've been out in some of the towns and kind of tell the story of how important that retail element is in the community.
Yeah. We do a project that we call Shop Our Town, where we go into towns throughout Kentucky and we do vignettes of local retailers, and it's a chance for them to talk about how important retail is in their community. And we saw this during the pandemic. We saw people go to their local retailers. These are retailers that help sponsor your kid's Little League uniform, or they'll buy an ad in the high school sports program. Local retail in any size town is important. They provide jobs. They provide a tax base for the local government. And it's kind of a hub and a place for people to gather for a lot of places. It's the lifeblood of these towns. So this is a chance, we go out and we talk to retailers, give them a chance to tell their story. A lot of them are very interesting. Some of them have been there for 40, 50 years and they've endured.
Give us a little guidance here, heading into the holidays and beyond, some optimism maybe for how things do get better in the weeks ahead. Patience? Patience
would be one of it would be the main thing I say, be patient of what you're looking for. If you're finding the products you're not wanting not on the shelves, don't take it out on the employees there. It's not their fault. They can't wave a magic wand and make things appear. So be patient with them, shop early, and be flexible. We're expecting probably gift cards. They've been a popular item. They could be even more popular this year because of the items that maybe they know somebody really wanted. So they may just get a gift card and say, just hang on to it until those items get back on the shelves.
Steve, as you represent thousands of retailers across Kentucky, what will you be watching in the state legislature that's coming up? I know the Kentucky League of Cities is again proposing local tax flexibility, and your group opposed that last time.
Yeah, we did oppose that last time, and while we haven't seen actual legislation filed yet again, it just seems prices are going up. It's been a challenging year for retailers, restaurants, grocery stores. It just seems that putting more taxes on people, especially as prices are, we've seen some prices going up, especially on things like meat and things like that. Not sure that is a good option for people, especially for retailers that count on people coming in their stores to shop.
Well, we'll promise we will hear their side on that issue as the legislature approaches. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it very much. All right. And we hope you'll stay with us in just a moment. So cutting trees in Lexington has become controversial. We're going to hear from Kentucky Utilities in a moment. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers from WKYT. There's been controversy in Lexington recently about Kentucky Utilities taking out trees rather than trimming them in some cases. The company said it is for safety. Some residents say it goes too far, and they have taken their concerns to City Hall. Daniel Lowry is a spokesman for Kentucky Utilities, and he joins us on Kentucky Newsmakers. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Bill.
Explaining this to people.
Right.
It used to be that KU trimmed the trees back. Everybody easily understood the need for that kind of maintenance. Now there's this whole tree removal or clear cutting going on in some areas. Why does the power company need to swing that axe so much right now?
Well, it really goes back to the safety and reliability that we are obligated to do for our system and for our customers. And so we really have a practice now that is really since 2019 that is more proactive than reactive, as we have been in the past. And so this is part of our goal to really be as safe and reliable as possible.
So you have a plan that goes for every 5 years, I think is the cycle, right?
That's right. It's a cycle-based vegetation management program. And so this is based on an average of about 5 years for the cycle.
Used to be more often that people would call and say, hey, these limbs are getting close to the power lines. Is that the way it worked?
Well, you know, Billy, it would be sort of that reactive approach. Mm-hmm. But you got to keep in mind that, you know, we have more than 5,400 miles of transmission lines. And that's not to mention even the distribution lines. There are more miles of them. And under those transmission lines, those 5,400 miles of lines, we have 65,000 acres that we have to manage and maintain under those lines.
So the city signed off and understood that this was going to be the plan, that there would be this cycle and that there would be some whole trees taken out, including on people's yards.
Yeah, in some cases in our easements, which these easements can be 100 feet, 500 feet wide.
You have said that KU is listening to concerns, and you have gotten an earful. Certainly, you know, there were people who went to City Hall. They spoke out at a public meeting. But you've also said to them you have a lot of things to balance in consideration here. Right.
You know, we are listening. And I could talk about safety and reliability figures all day. But for folks who are losing their trees, I think that their frustrations are real. And we have met with those homeowners. We have met with the city council members. We have met with the mayor, Mayor Gordon. And so we've listened and we are evaluating thoughtfully now.
I mean, last year the city council passed a resolution condemning the removal of trees. You have had the mayor say, you know, please take a pause while you figure out how to go forward with this. Yeah. Again, is KU listening?
KU is listening, and we are looking at wherever we can pause and where it's applicable. You know, we're doing that.
How big a factor is the weather? We know winter is approaching. Soon after that, you get into spring storm season.
Right.
Does that figure into your need to do this on a timetable?
Well, you know, you always have to be cognizant of the fact that weather plays a real factor when you're talking about transmission lines. These lines are very dynamic, Bill. You know, so temperature plays a role. Weather conditions play a role. The system load, a lot of times in the winter you get a lot more load on the system. And so all those factors make these lines very dynamic. I mean, it's not like they're just set in that straight line and they stay there. So they really move. So you may look at a tree and think it's not very far, or it's not very close, or it's too far. And but you might not realize that these trees are growing. Some trees can grow 3 to 4 or 5 feet a year. And we're looking at a cycle-based plan that's 5 years. So we're looking into the future, and you have lines that very easily could come in contact with these trees.
Can you tell us today, and I know we have all heard KU is listening,
right.
But has there been any kind of decision to alter the path forward on the part of the utility company in this tree cutting?
Oh yeah, I mean, right now at the highest level of our company, you know, we're evaluating our best industry standard practices that we do now. We're looking at them to see, is there a way that we can do it better? You know, what can we do to really try to save as many trees as we can, and to be able to work with customers to work with the city, and in those cases where we do have to, and this is what we do now, if we do have a situation where we have to remove trees, oftentimes we'll work with the neighborhood, we'll work with the city to do a replanting. You know, for example, in one neighborhood in Lexington, we waited until this fall so that when we did the removals in the medians, we could immediately come back and plant right after in the fall so they could grow.
You know, after the ice storm in Lexington nearly 20 years ago now, there was a lot of talk of burying more power lines, and certainly in the new subdivisions you do see that. But is it just too cost prohibitive to in these areas? You know, you look at Lansdowne Drive, there's a big transmission line right down the middle of it. I mean, there are places here in town where the lines are very visible.
Right.
Is it too cost prohibitive to bury utility lines on a big scale?
Yes. Unfortunately, when you look at transmission lines, and you know, a lot of neighborhoods, when they're brand new, they can put the underground distribution lines in there. But the cost makes it ineffective in many cases.
What are we talking about? Numbers.
It varies. It varies quite a bit, and so I hate to be specific. But just to give you sort of a general ballpark figure, you're looking at $1 million per mile in some cases. In some areas it can be higher. And plus you've got to dig up that ground. You know, if you're going to bury lines, you're going to lose landscaping, trees, vegetation too.
And KU would have no choice but to pass that on to consumers, right?
Well, the cost would be passed on to the customers, yes. And so and part of our mission is to provide safe, reliable energy at the lowest reasonable cost to our customers, and that would go against that mission. If we tried to bury 5,400 miles of transmission lines, you know, for example, in Lexington there are about 470 miles of transmission lines, but there are more than 2,000 miles of distribution lines. And people may say, what's the difference? What are you talking about? Because it's kind of analogous, Bill, to maybe the highway system. So you have a transmission line is like a highway. It's like I-75, whereas distribution is more like the streets in the neighborhoods.
And anywhere there's a break, there's trouble.
Especially
right? Yeah.
with a transmission.
All right, so this kind of leads into the colder weather that's coming, and you said
Right.
you want to try to control costs. What can customers do out there as the heaters start kicking on? You want them to be safe, number one, but also how do they try to use less electricity?
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right, Bill, because in the wintertime, oftentimes that's when our customers get sticker shock. When you get these cold weather months and their bills go up, because heating your home roughly can be about 40% or more of your electric bill. So heating costs really matter. So making sure your home is free from any holes in your cracks, or make sure you seal up those cracks around your windows and your doors. That's a good tip. There are many tips you can do. We have a lot of this on our website, lge-ku.com. For example, every degree in your thermostat matters. Saving money that way can be just dropping it where it's comfortable still, but making sure every degree you can put it at a comfortable level, but also as low as possible. And you want to unblock your registers too, for example. You don't want to have shoes blocking your I do that. I walk into my closet and see that. So there are a lot of things.
Let the heat out, right?
Let the heat out, right.
All right. Daniel Lowry, thank you so much for coming by from Kentucky Utilities. And I know a lot of folks are hoping that something can be worked out here and there'll be a better path forward.
Let's hope.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, we're coming back on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers in just a moment. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers. Cryptocurrency is surging in popularity. The total market value, it's more than $2 trillion. Hedge funds are trading it. You can buy it on PayPal, and now a Wall Street first. Our chief national political analyst, Greta Van Susteren, has the details.
Hello, I'm Greta Van Susteren, and here is your full court fast break. This week, Bitcoin stealing headlines soaring to a new record high. And for the first time ever, a U.S. Bitcoin-linked exchange-traded fund making its debut. The ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF launching on the New York Stock Exchange, ticker name BITO. This fund does not directly handle Bitcoin. Instead, it invests in Bitcoin futures contracts, betting on the crypto's future price. That means investors do not own the actual digital tokens, but they can get into the crypto game without creating a crypto wallet or establishing an account with a cryptocurrency provider. Bitcoin is calling this ETF a watershed moment for the industry. We spoke to Bloomberg's Mike McClain. He says one day Bitcoin will be in every investment portfolio.
Well, the thing remember about Bitcoin, it's in the price discovery stage. It's only been around for about a decade. It's a new discovery. Think of the internet. Think of Amazon 20 years ago. It's just getting to that higher plateau. Once it reaches that, it will stabilize. Volatility will come way down and be widely adopted and accepted. The key thing is you can instantly transact it and sell it when you need to. It's not like when you want to sell some physical gold, you have to have it tested, you have to go to the right place to do it. There's a commission. It gets complicated. What's going to stop the whole financial system going to that way of instant settlement and virtually zero cost? Nothing.
While the SEC did greenlight ProShares Bitcoin ETF, it warns crypto is still volatile and considered a highly speculative asset class. Want more full court press? Tune in Sundays. We bring politics home, covering the national stories that impact you.
And remember, you can catch Full Court Press with Greta Van Susteren this morning at 11:30 on WKYT. Certainly thank you for joining us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. I'll be seeing you on WKYT News throughout the week, and we certainly hope you make it a good week ahead.